Welcome to Staying Connected Without Burning Out While You're Building Up. I'm really appreciative of President Gilbert's talk because we're going to build right off of that right now, which is kind of nice. So, I started teaching for BYU-Idaho the fall of 2009 when this whole thing started. I have not taken a semester off since, and I've done a few summer blocks. Yeah, it's a lot, that's a lot of students. Usually I teach 2 sections. I've been fortunate to be in that role. When we started out, we had 67 instructors and 35 courses. That is a lot of growth in a very, very short time. It has been probably one of the most exciting things to watch. And the best thing about these conferences, you get there and you get recharged and you see the vision and you get going. But then we get to students. So let's take a little look. In our handbook, our wonderful handbook that we love so dearly, we are to build faith in Jesus Christ. We are to develop relationships with and among our students. We are to inspire love of learning. We need to embrace the university citizenship and seek development opportunities all within those 10 hours we're allotted each week to do it. That's a lot. When you break it down and look at it like that, that's a lot that we're asked to do. And that doesn't even count in the hours of emails, the students who have questions, the students who have issues that they just can't quite seem to work out. They're my favorites. And then you have all the meetings. Now, you guys are really blessed that the meetings are nowhere what they used to be. There used to be a meeting every week, an hour long, connected online, and it was wonderful. I missed that meeting, actually. It was a great meeting. So when we get burnout, there's some things that we look for within ourselves to identify burnout. The first one is feeling disinterested in student achievements. We find this in our feedback. Are we giving that quality feedback, or do we just say, oh, yeah, they did it, check it off the list, move on, type feeling. So these are student comments from my course this semester. And this student says, I'm really struggling with probability. I'm doing my best, nevertheless, to get the concept down, but I don't have I did have a really rough time grasping the concept, but it's getting better because I'm putting in a lot of effort to these concepts in my head because I love math, and I really want to know these things because I need them for my future career. I teach math, not English. It's a good thing, right? Same comments in there. This is a student that an email is not enough. It just isn't enough. And I could just let that go. And I could say, yep, okay, at least you're putting your effort in, good job. Then I get the ones that you have no patience. One too many emails like this. I'm sorry, teacher, but unfortunately I was not going to come up with my commitment to catch up with the matter since I work hard and have some personal problems. This student dropped. Didn't reply. I tried to contact this student, didn't get a reply back. They're gone, just gone. Too many life issues. Negativity. I don't know how the home office expects me to ever exceed expectations. Doesn't matter what you do, you can never get that dang box checked off. And my TGL's here, so that's great. And my aim's will be back in here, so that's even better. I really, really want that exceeds expectations. That's what I do in life, and I can't quite get there. So if I can't get there, then how do I stay motivated to a teacher? And how do I work with students who are gone? How do I get them back? And how do I get them to come back in when all of a sudden their life has become too much for them to cope with? This student was working an 8-hour week and trying to do Math 108, which is 15 plus hours a week, something to do about every other day, and it's a struggle for them. The first student, phone call. Email wasn't enough. You got a phone call. These students need to know you live and you're alive. Well, then we continue on with these feelings exhausted, feeling emotionally, mentally, and physically empty. I'll grade that tomorrow. It can wait. I've got a week. I'll get there eventually. Whew. You ever feel like, I'll just do it later. I'm going to go McDonald's tonight. It's better. And then forgetfulness. Now, this one I fall into once in a while. Oh, I thought I submitted that report days ago, and it's been 2 days. I usually try and do mine after I'm done grading. So I rarely try and take my grading past Sunday. There's a few things that do take time, like a spreadsheet takes a little bit. But I usually try my grading done by Saturday midnight, and then I shut down, and Sunday's heavenly. It's the best day of the week. But I forget my reports. It's just kind of bad. That forgetfulness. Highly emotional and less sympathetic towards others. Have you ever had the students, you'll see these students get burned out with this a lot. I do see it with faculty once in a while, instructors, where they lose it. And unfortunately, but this is a student says, "Professor, I forgot to take the exam. Can you reopen it?" This is at 1 a.m. 4 days after the exam closed. It's like you didn't see the zero the hour after you finished. And then, so my response, this is my wife. My wife cannot ever respond to my students because she's an accountant and everything's got to be exact. How? The dates are clearly posted. I send reminder emails. I post an announcement. It's on the course calendar. There's a reminder on the dashboard. What makes the student feel like they get an extra minute of allotment? So my wife does not respond to my students ever.
What if you are the accountant?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. Maybe have them do an addendum and I'll file late. Normalizing. Who needs sleep? I'll catch up on it later. I used to tell my mom all this all the time. Death is when I'll sleep. I'll sleep in the grave. And it works for me. I went to architectural school, and so my sleep pattern is completely destroyed. So I usually go to bed around midnight, 1 o'clock, and I'm up by 4:30. That's good. I'll probably burn out someday. So let's look at what we need to do to avoid this burnout and what we're looking at. So usually it's because of a lack of preparation, not able to deal with student problems as they come up, and we get some really interesting student problems. Ghana's been my challenge. That 3-hour window when they can have power is a little tricky sometimes. India is proving to be a little bit more of a challenge. So as we work, and yes, we got students in India now, if you didn't know. It's kind of cool. I have 13 time zones this semester. That's why I don't sleep. It's great. Because I get emails. As soon as I try and turn the phone, there's an email. Difficult student behavior. Students who lack the motivation to succeed. I have had some doozies that have gone all the way up to the president of the college with their complaints. And Bonnie's been involved in some of those choice, wonderful spirits that'll eventually rule worlds. Lack of support and interpersonal conflict. Limited opportunities to engage. That's one of the things I miss about the old system where we met as a group every week. It was so much easier to get to know everybody. I came in last night and everybody's new, and I've been here for a long time, and it's kind of changed. Boredom. Teaching the same material semester after semester after semester after semester, and all we can do is add the announcements. Yay. Yeah, that's kind of for a teacher, that's limiting because we like to be autonomous in what we do. So let's look at what we're actually dealing with here, and we'll kind of look at this. So this is coming from my own research. I presented parts of this before, and I didn't have it quite finished, and it finished literally this year. And I'm really kind of excited about it because I feel it was kind of inspired. So the elements that build an instructor's connection are the same things that help us find meaning in what we do. And again, in your schedule, you can download the entire PowerPoint. So it's kind of nice that way, because then we all don't look like we're gophers. I have a thing for gophers. My yard is infested right now, and it's a real fun thing. So what we need as a teacher is we need to have continual learning and self-reflection. We need to have autonomy and choice in action. We need spiritual growth and respect from others. We need positive interactions with colleagues. And we need contributing to student development. Those are the core elements that we need as an instructor. We have to have those. That's what makes our job worth doing. Okay, now it gets a little more complicated. As we get working on these, there's an interplay that happens between each of these elements. When we share our own learning experiences and our failures and our successes, we model that development of the interests that we are passionate about. We teach what we teach because we have a passion for it. And our students need to pick that up. They need to see that. Because they're in multiple different majors, but if they understand where our passions lie, they get it. Students need to know that making the choices they're making and the struggles that they might be having are only for a short time. Well, when those come together, we find what we're passionate about. And finding what we're passionate about is really essential to making sure you're in the right field. And that's what we need to help our students do, is they need to know where the passions lie. If they're just taking a class because it's a class, they're really hard to keep motivated. But if they find out there's a passion for it, it's great. That's why I love the class I teach. They learn how to buy a house. What's more passionate than having a house? That's really fun. All right, then we go into autonomy of choice and action, and the positive interactions with our colleagues. That's one thing I have always loved about BYU-Idaho's online program, is we interact quite a lot. We have our community, for pros and cons of what it is. We still have that interaction. We have our monthly meetings now. We have that interaction we get. So every semester, we have one or two students complain about the discussion boards in the groups. I'm not sure how many courses do the group work, but in Math 108, it's pretty essential, heavy part of their load. And they complain about it because they're never in the same area, and they go, how am I supposed to do this in an online environment? And what value is it to me? Because they just don't understand what we get from working together. So we share examples of working with our teaching group and our ward councils, with your employment. You let them know the value they gain from interacting with others in their work, bouncing off ideas. If they're married, how does that group work? Are they building off of each other from that group interaction? And you build off that understanding, so as they go into their student groups, they say, oh, this is kind of like that. Maybe I'll be a better person, or maybe my roommates will start to like me better. That's always a fun one. So when these interactions come together, then we start having team collaborations and contributions, which allows us to be innovative and allows us to move forward. So if our team isn't collaborating, then they're not really moving in a direction that's unified. So one of the things I try and do in my discussion boards, and I'm really striving to do better in discussion boards, is I asked each individual group member to post something positive about everybody else in their group, so it was out there publicly viewable for them. That was a mixed result. Some refused to say anything positive about anybody, so they wouldn't say anything at all. But those that did started understanding a little bit more about how that group dynamic was working for them. They started to build camaraderie. They started to figure out that, you know, I understand you're struggling a little bit, let me help you with this. And what happened after that is the discussion boards with students post became a little more personal. It wasn't just, here's my answers, did you get the same thing, thanks, moving on. It's, here's how I got this, and this is why I did what I did, which is what we ultimately want, is for them to explain the why. Why are you doing what you're doing? And those teams that start to appreciate each other did better in their discussion boards, which has been kind of I need more hours, kind of an interesting thing to see. I'd like to see that happen more in my classes and put more effort into that building rather than just here, post your answers, what do you have to say about it, and how did you get there? Our next issue is our interactions with our colleagues and our contributing to student development. How does being here help our students there, and being there being the world? Well, when we combine these, and I like to say, having post positive things about each other is really kind of a key thing about finding traits in others that you appreciate. We all run across people in our lives that we can't understand why they're there, and we'd rather move on to somebody else that we'd be more affectionate with. But in this area, when you start finding the positive traits in others, and you bring those together, then you start having feelings of being valued. And what's a really important aspect to any instructor is that feeling of value. Because some of us will always be just an instructor, and that's a good place to be. Some of us might be a lifelong learner and never move beyond that. Some of us will be AIMs and TGLs and OCRs and whatever letters the church comes up with to use. But for most of us, just being an instructor has value, and it has value to the students that we teach. And we sometimes forget that we are valued. Even if we're one of, the 400 new employees were hired this year, so 1,000 teachers. That's hard to think about. All right, staying connected then is students need to learn the model and why they learn. So if we are continuing to learn, and if we are looking to help them find spiritual connections in what they're learning, through our announcements and our discussion posts and our emails, then when we add these talks and these scriptures and these thoughts that connect with the gospel principle, we're building a foundation. And this is, in my view of what's going on, this is probably the most important thing we can do, is how does everything in the world, everything we teach, connect to the gospel whole? How are they finding that? Because ultimately, this is where we're headed.
And you're a math teacher.
I'm a math teacher. Well,
We talked about how it's easy with philosophy.
oh, yeah.
Teaching art, but
Yeah. See, we're building up because we were all inspired. What I've found, and I'm not just math, because I don't teach math in my real world. I am not a math major. I do architecture and engineering and business and education. Those are my degrees. Math, just when I interviewed in fall of 2009, they said, "Do you want to teach business or math?" I said, "Oh, pick one for me," and they did, and I'm here, so it works, and I think it helps a little bit. But there is a spiritual relation to everything in this world, and we start identifying those with the students, that things work out really well as we combine these. They become self-aware. And this now becomes, this is what education is all about, becoming self-aware, being able to be a lifelong learner, and we're moving on, all happy. And self-awareness, Maslow had that at the very top, right? We got here in 5 steps, and we can do it in a class. It doesn't take a lifetime for a student to become self-aware of what they can become. I was 36 when I figured out what I want to do with my life. That's a long time my students are emailing me, it's all great. That's a long time to not know where your purpose of life is and what makes it meaningful for you. We can help a student find that within a course, at least the path they need to be on. And that's huge. So we get this great little dynamic thing happening. And we want to be purposeful teachers. We want the work we do to feel valued. We want it to feel like we're contributing. And as President Gilbert's talking today, we are changing the face of the world for a lot of really good reasons. And I know we've talked about the economic aspect to what we're doing with our students, that we're taking students from third and second world countries. We're giving them the opportunity to move up a classification of socioeconomical status. I was told at one of these conferences that one of the reasons we have Pathway is that the Perpetual Education Fund was not working well. Students were getting a loan. They were getting a job. The job didn't pay enough to pay the loan back. They left the church. Now, they can do Pathway. If you're a U.S. citizen, it's $69 a credit for the whole time you're working on your bachelor's degree. Can you pay that loan back to Perpetual Education? Absolutely. You can pay cash. Does that help you know how purposeful what we're doing is and how much livelihood we're changing? Now, if we're feeling valued and we have all these interests and passions and team contributions, the middle part here, this core element, is what was missing when I did my dissertation in 2007. Couldn't figure out what went there. How does all of this become something of value to a teacher? What do I need to know that keeps me moving forward? And he's focusing my face again. That's all great. I moved on him. All right. So we bring in agency. If we've got passion, interests, and team contributions, and autonomy of choice, and positive interactions, and continual learning, that is agency. And agency is, verily say, men and women should be anxious to engage in a good cause and do many things for their own free will, for power is in them, wherein they are agents unto themselves. That's the first element that was missing. We have agency. As teachers, we can leave anytime we want. We can add anything we need. We can do what we have to do. We have full agency. Did you lose me? You're good. Okay. She's shaking her head back there. It scares me. Then we have duty, which is loyalty and responsibility. D&C 107-99. Now let every man learn his duty and to act in the office or position in which he is appointed in all diligence. Isn't that what we're asked to do in the handbook? Is to do everything in all diligence? I mean, that's exceeding expectations or just meeting the expectation. We'll debate that another day. Improve the talents in others and perfect the saints. That's one of our missions of the church. And all this for the benefit of the church, of the living God, that every man may improve upon his talent, that every man may gain other talents, yea, even 100-fold, to be cast into the Lord's storehouse, to become common property of the whole church. Is that not what President Gilbert just spoke to us about? Is we're adding to this wealth of knowledge within the church as a whole to serve, to contribute, to build. It's kind of exciting. I mean, this was submitted days ago. It was great. I was excited. Improve the talents of perfecting the saints. I think I got that one there twice. That's okay. Actualization then comes in there. D&C 88:123. See that you love one another, cease to be covetous, learn to impart one to another as the gospel requires. That's what we do as teachers. We are the imparting ones. Do we get back from our students? I get a lot back. I get a lot of understanding of cultures. I get a lot of understandings of faith-building stories of how they came to the church or how they decided to go back to school at 65 years of age. Those pretty amazing things. Pretty amazing things. So we get compassion for others and self-awareness. Self-improvement and perfection. We've discovered the three pillars of the church are in part of this. That's what we're contributing to as teachers, is in Alma 34:32. And now, as I said to you before, ye have had so many witnesses thereof, I beseech you, that you do not procrastinate the day of your repentance until the end. For after this day of life, which is given for us to prepare for eternity, behold, if we do not improve our time while in this life, then cometh the night of darkness, wherein there can be no labor performed. This is the time. We are part of that time, that hastening of the work. Self-improvement and perfection. Well, let's get, I'm hoping to push the right button. So we're back to here, what do we need to do? We're very much part of the Father's work on this earth. And what is his work? What is the work that we are about doing here? BYU-Idaho, BYU Pathway. What is it that we're actually coming about doing? So if we're looking at being purposeful as teachers, then we have a purpose for being a teacher. And that is the one thing that has kept me from burnout for 15 semesters. That's a lot of semesters. And if we know why we're doing what we're doing, then we don't feel burned out because we're doing the Lord's work. And let's look at that Lord's work. There it is. So, the Lord's work. We'll start in D&C 93:29. Man also is in the being with God. Intelligence, or light and truth, was not created or made, neither indeed can be. That's what we started with. That's what our students are. They started the same stuff we did. Intelligence. That's pretty amazing. And sometimes you wonder, but they all start as intelligence. Moses 1:39, behold my work, this is my work and my glory, to bring past immortality and eternal life of man. So we were intelligence, became man, God wants us back. Our Father wants us to return. That's so important that he wants us to return. D&C 130:18, whatever principle of intelligence obtained in this life, and we heard that quoted in the meeting just prior, and unto this life will arise within the resurrection. How important is it we get educated? How is it important that we educate those around us? That is a huge commandment. That's huge. D&C 130:19. And if a person gains more knowledge and intelligence in this life through his diligence and obedience than another, he will have so much the advantage of the world to come. What is that advantage? What is it we're building in these students that are being driven for knowledge? D&C 93:36. The glory of God is intelligence, or in other words, light and truth. That's very cyclical. We start out as light and truth. God's glory is light and truth. Light and truth is knowledge, or intelligence. For intelligence cleaveth unto intelligence, as we find in D&C 88:40. Brothers and sisters, what we are doing is we're building the foundational glory of our brothers and sisters by teaching them. That is an amazing thing, is we are pre-bloating their glory before they go to the next world. That is why we can't afford to be burned out. we are doing amazing work. We are bringing to pass the immortality and eternal life of our brothers and sisters to help our Father in heaven. That is why we teach. That is the essence of being a teacher, is to build the glory of those around us. And if we keep that in mind, and we work with students who are struggling and who are striving to try and move forward in life and make it a little bit better life, we are adding to their glory, and that's humbling. And that makes us amazing. And we are part of that work. And I finished on time, and so I leave this with you to contemplate and to pray about, because I know it's true. And if you have questions, I'd be more than happy to ask those at this point.